are you indicating that's my responsibility? I would accept no responsibility whatsoever.
Then, now, forever, together.
Oof. Episode 5. Shouts out to the BRP folks on the YouTube, because they've been responding very well to each episode. It's been good to be seeing people making comments in there. Shouts out to Mimi. Shouts out to Brother Fam. Peace to Math and DDM as well. DDM in the win for real. DDM in the super win. Episode 5. Miss McMahon, the Netflix docuseries. This is family business. And I mean, this is pretty much it's interesting because I mean, there's a lot of family stuff in there, but I mean, it's very much the tail end of this is looking like it's a new era of growth. Pause for WWE, whether it's the purchasing of WCW, the starting of the XFL, the Ruthless Aggression era. I mean, there's even a little bit of Rock and Hogan, and then you get to Cena, and that's when I'm like, God damn, I'm not gonna say I'm documentaried out, because part of being on the Patreon, especially, is to I watch a lot of this stuff, but like the Ruthless Aggression docuseries wasn't that long ago. I feel like there's a couple. The XFL, me and Fan watched the XFL 30 for 30. Was it last summer?
Yeah, and with Brother Diz. Shout out to
Diz. Peace to Diz. Yeah, Diz was in on that one as well. Yeah, so I've seen a lot of this stuff recently. So I'm not saying I was like fully like, oh, I can't watch this shit no more, but I had to be like, yo, I got to tap. I got to hit the pause button at a certain point. But I guess we'll start.
So, Cal, what do you think would make for a good doc? Like, because a lot of the one thing I keep hearing, and I still think these people are a little bit wrong.
Yeah, well, they're allowed.
The one thing I keep hearing is, well, there's nothing new here. There's nothing new here. What do you think a doc would be that would kind of tread new ground, like isn't stuff we've seen a bunch of?
Well, and I think, I mean, unfortunately, that's largely the biggest part of what has to make your documentary unique, right? If it's not new conversations with like people, and I think that's what was attempted in this. Like, name me the last time you saw Wendy Richter, talking about that situation. Like, I think there were steps to do that, but I think it's also obtaining new footage or unseen footage. Like the over the edge stuff is a great example. It's a tragic example, but a lot of people hadn't been seeing a lot of that 25-year-old pay-per-view footage for a very good reason, but being able to find a way to tastefully use that in your story. But even outside of that, I don't know who watched Who Killed WCW on Vice. It was a couple months ago. The Rock, the $7 produced thing, with the guys behind Dark Side of the Ring. On the last, I don't know if it was in the first episode, but definitely the last episode of that miniseries, they had behind the scene footage from just some guy. He worked at WCW, but the one genius, the one thing I don't do, he was like, oh shit, this is the last Nitro. Let me pull out my camcorder and just start shooting it. He had Gold Dust in paint backstage talking about stuff, like the setting up of the ring, just like being able to capture a lot of that stuff. I think it can add to this, because at a certain point, you're going to get to the Rock versus Hogan. You're going to get to the Ruthless Aggression. You're going to get to, and there's, with that stuff specifically, I don't even think WWE needs to go back and look at the scripts from everything else. Like there's certain, I was actually thinking about this during the documentary. I'm sorry to be talking loud, but there's certain like moments in WWE that are kind of like off ramps to larger stories. And I think the John Cena Ruthless Aggression timeline, they've nailed that perfectly. There's no, I think it's a really good story to tell, and B, there's no scandal, there's no like fuckery to like you can add stuff to it, but like what it is and what it is, you don't have to worry about like some big looming thing that was happening during some of that stuff. So it's very easy for them to tell that tale to get to somewhere else. The thing is, I think for me, I'm not looking for, whatever pot of gold people were thinking was going to be coming up, or whatever zings or twists or surprises people thought was going to happen. For me, I need the story to feel like you're telling this. If you're getting the money to tell a documentary about some shit we've all heard about, at the very least you need to figure out a way to tell it. Figure out what ways to tell it to where I don't feel like I'm retreading the same ground at certain points. And I think for me, it halfway into episode 5 of a 6-part docuseries to be like, you know what, I've been watching too much of this, and I'm kind of feel like I'm hearing some of this stuff before. I feel like that's a good point for me to be like, let me take a chill. Right. Because I'm not going in this thinking that they're going to be dropping any bombshells.
Right.
But
Mimi, is there a story that you think could be told now? Like, is there what could be told?
Only because there's dirt sheets, and the dirt sheets killed that for us. They've found out too many things in the back and made it their mission to be the first to put it out. You know what I mean? And so there is no curtain anymore behind the curtain, in my opinion.
No, I think that's an interesting point. Yeah.
The Death of Kayfabe deserves its own documentary.
That's right.
Facts.
That's
No,
right.
facts. Like a real one. Yeah.
That would be, because you got to remember, and we talked about it last episode where like you got Stone Cold and Undertaker, clutching to old school values. Yeah. Like there are some people that don't know the old school, like protect the business at all costs. Right. And I think that could be told in a way that would give a lot of understanding to people who only have watched wrestling in the last 15 years.
Right. Yeah. I will say, I think there's probably, you think about spin-offs for TV shows, there's probably a whole docuseries that could be done with Netflix, someone about specifically kayfabe. You could take it all. I mean, well, I guess they did a good job of giving you the Cliff Notes version of the history of kayfabe and then what that really meant in terms of pro wrestling at that time. But you could go all the way back to the carnivals and how they had to keep that side of the business secret just so people would still be buying tickets. But I mean, again, in watching documentaries and watching stuff like the Harley Race edition of Dark Side of the Ring, those are some of the inroads into the more modern eras, because he was straight out of that. He's a direct product of, look, I'm a legit badass, but we got to figure out how to work the angles to make sure we can still buy shit. But because at that point it could be some legit crazy motherfucker trying to come up and trying to fight you because they think, oh, I could take the wrestling dude, so he had to be like. But it's those are conversations that can be fleshed out.
If y'all do it, I need my
facts.
I need my credit.
It'll never happen. The way that you hear about Vince McMahon trying to buy documentaries, Hollywood do the same thing. They be buying movies. They'll buy your movie and then take your plot.
That's right.
That's fine. If I get paid, you can take my name off of it.
I guess you just gotta, as long as you can negotiate the right amount of money.
I don't care about my name being on TV.
Facts. So they started out. Now they've not gone too deep. I think this is probably the deepest they ever spoke about Vince, and I guess the abuse, the multiple forms of abuse that he suffered at home. They spoke about it briefly. And what was the one quote that I wrote down? He was talking about getting the crap beat out of him. He says, once he stops and you're still breathing, you win. Right. That. I think that's. And that's the stuff that I'm talking about. That makes me like sit and be like, damn, I'm still picking stuff up from this documentary, because that mentality makes me think directly of Fam likes to talk about it a lot when it comes to the baby faces that people think should be champion. The money's in the chase. And WWE and Triple H specifically, the mentality's always been, yeah, you'll get a big pop when Cody Rhodes wins the world title, but guess how big it's going to be if they got to wait 2 years before they get it. You know, it's stuff like that, and they're getting their ass kicked, and you don't think they're going to do it, and then The Rock, like it puts that stuff into perspective for me. That those little lines, but again, I don't know what people are looking for in some of these documentaries. You feel me? But
yeah, that dichotomy with Vince, right, that we all have to kind of tackle. It's like Vince is the reason, right? But good and bad. Like like for the stuff that we love about pro wrestling, a great deal of it, Vince is the reason, but the bad stuff and the terrible history of and culture of what professional wrestling is also it's you can't. I think the cool part about it is you can't pick and choose.
You gotta that term warts and all is really key when it comes to if you're watching WWE and like call yourself a appreciator or pro wrestling enthusiast, whatever you want to call it, like you got it. And it's funny. I want to ask you a unrelated question in a second, Mimi, but it's funny. Actually, it's kind of related. There's times where I see people get frustrated because the person that they want loses. And I'm at the point now where I'm like, it don't matter to me, only because I was
Brian.
No, facts, but it's because like I had to be the one to see Bad News Brown be so dope, and then he would lose at a certain point, or like Ron Simmons got this title, and then he eventually I being a black pro wrestling fan means you have to learn certain things early. But I also, to parallel, I imagine the same may be said for women who are pro wrestling fans as well. So Mimi, I wanted to know, because they started talking about the business and the family, and Shane wanting to be like, Shane seemed like he was a little Vince in terms of like being eager to be in the system. What were your thoughts of seeing the early Steph McMahon? I don't remember when you were watching and when you weren't watching. Were you watching WWE when Steph was like going to be married to Test and all the possibility of Vince impregnating or Miss McMahon impregnating? You weren't watching. What were your thoughts when you saw this in episode 5?
So I've heard of this storyline and all of this or whatever, and first I didn't realize that he's not here anymore.
Yeah, he passed early.
But what's interesting is the push for her to date Triple H.
Yes.
And that was weird for me because he says one thing, he doesn't want, you're not supposed to date a wrestler or whatever. And then all of a sudden, here we are, you're trying to push him towards somebody like this person. And it was a mind fuck, in my opinion.
Yeah.
It felt like she was not interested initially. And then once you start spending time with somebody, of course, the interest becomes there.
Right.
But it because she briefly mentioned it. But that was very weird. It's almost like he orchestrated everything of how he wanted the business to go. And the sad part about it is he basically reenacted his relationship with his dad, with Shane.
Yep.
Because from beginning to end of how even to this this documentary, you can see he's still trying to protect that whole everything went down a little bit. And it was sad to kind of watch happen.
Right.
But I understood where it came from, and it made me really understand who Vince really is, and you are truly a product of your upbringing.
Right.
Yo, Vince really is Rick James in that goddamn Dave Chappelle episode. Like, he keeps on doing things, right? Where he says, like, yo, he'll tell you that, like, I'm nothing like the character, right?
Right.
And what you see on TV is just the work. But then what he wants to also do is when he's booking his product, I want it to be believable and kind of affect people like it would in real life. So when you book something like your daughter being around, it's almost inevitable that you're going to book her being with some wrestler.
Right.
Yeah.
Right?
He was getting hype off the crowd chanting that she was a slut when The Rock was
weird.
talking to her. Yeah,
Weird.
that's what it was.
And that's what he said. Like, it's like there was no boundary. There's no boundaries. Nobody's off limits. Everybody's on the slaughter board, like, basically, and he does not care. As long as he makes money, he doesn't care. And that's the part I did not read about with Vince Senior being that way. I think he had some moral ground. And even Tony said it. Tony said he would have Shane would have never survived because he was a nice guy.
Yes,
You can't be nice in this industry; they'll take advantage of you. But I don't believe that. Tony Atlas,
yeah. Well,
if you grab a pecker, the little Shane would have took care of me. He would have said, "Don't grab a pecker."
I do want to mention, but I think because of the way that, like,
live down that pecker comment.
the way that Shane McMahon's time was in WWE, like during this episode, like like at a certain point he's gone, and then he comes back in the regular time frame next episode. But yeah, they basically pick up on that then, and he mentions Shane trying. The thought was that Shane was going to come back to be Vince Jr. And the problem was at that point, Steph, who may not have even wanted to, she was cool and she'd grown up and seen everything, but may not have had those types of aspirations. They started the network, she'd been an on-screen character in the vein of her father for a minute. Like, there was nothing that Shane had did when he was gone that would have warranted any consideration in my eyes. Like, with Steph there, and then with the way Triple H was rising with creative and everything, it didn't feel like Shane was necessary on a executive level.
Well, of course he wasn't. Look what he said. When he was trying to move forward the business, like he was trying to move forward the business, like he essentially reenacted everything that happened to him in the real life. And to hear Heyman basically say all the things that he said to him, like basically, you're gonna have to kill me.
Yeah.
Maybe UFC might have not have worked then. Maybe we don't, but we don't even know because you didn't even give him a chance. Right. And I don't think, going back to what Tony said, I don't think Shane wanted to defy his father.
No.
Or maybe he didn't have it in him to go against all odds, and because he really sincerely just wanted to be in the good light of his father. But for him to say, you're going to have to kill me. Yeah. Like,
you should have stabbed him.
Right.
But remember.
And then says, if you don't stab me, that's the mind fuck again. If you don't stab me, then I know
you're not willing to do what you want to do. Like, But that remember, like, this is the little stuff that Vince has been saying the entire documentary. Like, if you can't compete with me, tough. Brett screw Brett. I have no sympathy. Like, he's been, and a lot of that is probably because his daddy never hugged him, and that's what Shane McMahon was wanting for. In the last episode, the whole thing on TV was Shane agreeing to one more match, to vie for the company, run the company, whatever the case may be. Run Raw. Thank you. Vince said, I got you. I get to pick the opponent, whatever. And then this man has a Hell in a Cell match against The Undertaker at WrestleMania. And where he jumps off the top of the cage through a table because Taker old ass got up and he fell and he had nowhere else to go.
But remember that storyline had an envelope? Remember that storyline had an envelope? There was a picture or something in an envelope. Remember that story? They touched it and then never talked about it. And
I definitely don't remember. I'd have to go back.
It didn't even make the documentary.
I think, but remember what happened at the end of that? He had to go to Gorilla. His sons was over there crying because they thought Daddy died or whatever. He had to he had his hand up, his thumb up when he was going up the ramp. But then he got his hug from his father, and like he looked like he was crying. Like it was like that was the think of the hell, no pun intended, that he had to go through to get that
the hug.
He said, "She got emotional." I said, "God damn, why you gotta do your son like that?"
Purposefully.
Purposefully. They talked about Linda being on camera. Linda admitted
She was terrible.
she admitted that she wasn't as good as them, but then they showed the footage. I'm like, God damn.
I know.
No,
That was bad.
I'll still argue that
That was
Linda
bad.
took the stunner better than Vince.
Oh yeah. But she talked like she was still suffering from taking a stunner. It was something about she didn't realize that she had to use like her outside voice with the microphone. I don't know. I was never a fan of her character on TV, but yeah, she did take a decent stunner. That's funny.
She was good as the vegetable.
She did. There was that whole. Remember, that was a whole. She was just sitting in a wheelchair. She just didn't even talk. She was.
Yeah, that was the best. That was the best she was on TV.
They not only got to Vince buying WCW, but they then they mentioned XFL. I feel like they speed ran some of that stuff too, or maybe I was kind of just like.
But it went by fast, right?
It wasn't like they hung on it too
right,
long.
because in reality it didn't even last that long, which I watched the second iteration of it and I kind of enjoyed it.
Of the XFL?
Yeah, I enjoy because I like football, period. So I really, really enjoyed it. It felt like an elevated high school, in the middle of high school, a mix between high school, college, and regular football. It felt like.
Yeah, there's a league. Shout out to Trenton Thunder. When they lost during the pandemic, they lost their minor league baseball affiliation, whatever. Nobody was willing to take them on, so they're still operating, but they're now like, it feels like that. It's like if you're dope or not in college, or like you're in college and you don't make it, you don't get drafted anywhere like that. It's a lot of those people competing in that type of league. I feel like that's what the second.
And I feel like it's necessary.
Well, that's why The Rock was trying to spend all that damn money. Is he still doing that? It's done?
Yeah. I mean, they had I don't know how the numbers did.
Yeah, I don't know if I saw anything. I didn't look, but it felt like it was kind of quiet.
But they did have a good kickoff, I think. But I don't know how the season went.
Interesting. Yeah, that was the one part. I was actually I never even thought about it once he was already clicked up with them, but him buying the XFL, I always thought that was an interesting move, just in terms of like relationship wise with Vince and whatnot. I didn't know where he was at. Speaking of the XFL, though, I did like that they spent some time with Bob Costas talking about that interview with Vince.
Bob Costas, man.
Bob said he did his job. He got me because he said I wanted to he wanted to kill that motherfucker.
But Vince is interesting how he be ready to choke somebody up. Like,
you think he's selling wolf tickets, or he's serious?
No, he was serious.
Because
I believe he was.
He's
serious.
a big dude, though.
Vince is smacking one of them niggas. Man.
Yep.
you think he? But this is my question: is he doing it? And maybe this is he doing it? If he smacks Bob Costas, is that him doing like a Doc Schultz? Protect the business, or is this Vince being like, I'm pissed off personally, and I'm gonna choke you the hell out?
Yes, but it was interesting is Bob told him, I'm gonna be tough. So they warned, even in the warning, I think he thinks he's untouchable. I think he thinks people are supposed to fear him.
Right.
And Bob Costas was not in that other one, the one that he slapped his papers.
Oh yeah, the TSN dude. Or I think is that a Canadian show?
I thought it was Real Sports. The guy where he smacked the paper. I thought that was.
Oh, I don't know. I got to go back to. I remember the scene. I don't remember which show it was on though.
Yeah, it just feels like he don't care. Like he thinks. Oh yeah, you can be tough, but he's not gonna ask me that. Or he might say, "Don't ask me that," and thinks that people, like he thinks that he can hustle people
because he asked that they have to adhere it or whatever.
Right.
See, I think Vince knows that there's
God.
money. I think Vince knows that there's money in real life reaction. So it's that there's no such thing as bad press. You know what I mean? If he go on here and beat the guy up, yeah, he gonna get sued. I got the money to pay that lawsuit. I'm still paying John Stossel and whatever money it is to keep his mustache for.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So he don't care about that. He knows the real life reaction is what people will gravitate to. It's the moment, and I just think he don't care. Like,
I don't know where I'm at on it.
But then he did stop though. He stopped interviewing. Remember, for many years.
Well, yeah. Well, and again, I think that's the thing, right? That may have been, it was. I remember there was that one. There's definitely I think they said 2002 Playboy interview. I don't know what one would have been before.
I'm curious. I want to read that Playboy one because
I gotta find it.
Because I never read Playboy for the articles back in the day, but no, like I think that would just be an interesting read because they say that he was kind of saying that like his stepdaddy used to beat him up, but he was sexually assaulted by his mama.
Whoa! Somebody got the whole Yamin on.
I figured that
images. Yeah,
I figured that was the case. So I think
that's why you don't talk about her.
Yeah, that's what we know because he probably, you know what I mean. He probably had to, you know what I mean. This is why he was like, what we could do, Steph, is I could be the daddy. That'll be such like
but that's what it ended up being though. Like at a certain point, his thought was. It don't matter.
Yeah, your life experience is what all that stuff leads. You don't pull. It feels like people pull things out of thin air and make them up, and that's the story they came up with. Nah, baby, you came up with that because you saw a piece of it here, a piece of it here, a piece of it here, and you're just, you know what I mean? What they say about Nas, you sat in your windowsill and created your life.
Yeah,
like that's it. That's.
So are you saying that you don't think that happened to him?
No. What I'm saying is I think all the wild stuff that he pitched or he ended up booking, it came from somewhere. It came from his real life.
Yes.
Like, you know what I mean? That nigga really
is he who he is.
Yeah.
I'm came from him.
The only person that said no was Pritchard. And you heard what he said at the end. Well, they can lie all they want. This person, that person can lie all they want. I was like, did he just say that? I was shocked that he said that.
Not me, because you remember what he said to go along with it. His wife was sick with cancer.
That's right. That's right. Yes.
You don't remember facts. You don't remember places or things. You remember feelings. Right. There's nothing connected with memory more than like a feeling. Right. And when you help save my wife's life, who's still with me now, I'ma feel that, baby.
Yeah.
And so you don't know how Vince made me feel. No, we know how he made a lot of other niggas feel, and those facts are not as important as the way he made that.
Even with Taker said he would take a bullet for him.
I'll take a bullet for that man. He almost started crying after he said it too.
Listen. It's got to be weird for Shane, and I almost feel like I always feel like this with Cody too.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure it's weird for Cody too.
How people say, "Yeah, man, your father felt like a father figure to me." So all them kids from the Roman Reigns and all them niggas from the Performance Center that say,
NXT kids,
that nigga felt like a father to me. It's the same with Shane. It's interesting because are they booking? Is that the Shane story mixed with the Cody story, and that's what they book in, and that's why they took it because you can see it.
I think one thing that we've learned from being pro wrestling fans for a good chunk of our life is some of the best storylines and stuff that come straight off of life, or at the very least they feel like they came out of real life, whether it's the Montreal screw job or whatever, Cody and Roman, like Cody started out wanting to get the belt that his daddy never got, and I mean that was the one thing, his daddy never got that damn belt, and now you look here and you saw that his daddy could have got the belt, but what's funny, and I don't know if they did this on purpose, I'm going all the way back to episode 1, but I watched it again, I watched this clip the other day and it made me laugh. there was a part where Vince was talking about how before Hogan, he thought the guy was going to be Dusty Rhodes. See Dusty Rhodes in the ring doing his damn flamboyant thing, you know, bouncing around. And then the clip that they showed with Dusty Rhodes talking, you remember what he said? He said, America's when a black man and a white man can do something together. I forget what he said specifically.
That's the American dream, baby.
I said, that's why he didn't make him his champion. He didn't want to talk on that black man, white man shit. He needed...
In Dusty's book, Dusty said, I am
real
a black
American
man in a white man's body.
Yes, he did.
He said it out his mouth.
Until a goddamn John Wayne movie come on, then he loved John Wayne. Motherfucking man, John Wayne.
It's my birthday twin. Shout out Dusty Rhodes. Rest in peace. Nah, that's funny. That's funny. Yeah, we talked a lot about the improvement. Rock was in this episode too. They talked about Rock Hogan.
I felt like they purposely
I told Hogan,
let's do it,
with me, brother. Let's just let's just get it over, brother. You know, Hogan told him. Hogan said, Hogan was like,
"That's the way
to the match. We were in the match and we were on the ground line." And I said, "Hey, at WrestleMania 4, wear the bell bottoms." Like, you know what I mean?
Like what? In my rock, like my little rock research. That I skipped over that. I did not
over the Rock Hogan.
Not one.
You should. Listen. As much as those two gentlemen are who they are, it's super important to like wrestling. Like that whole
watch it once.
I never forget. If I'm correct, it was me, Cuz, and maybe Gene Cena and Cuz grandmother basement. Watching that joint live, man. Right. Listen, that there's a point during that beginning. Ain't nobody say nothing. Y'all was just sitting there looking at that screen like, God damn. Them niggas, we didn't even know to turn each other down. He turned his head one way, I turned it the other.
Yes, I think I remember.
We made beautiful art.
You got it. The thing is. The thing is, Mimi, is because I'm told we're gonna get out of here after this, but there was one day on the chat app that we have, the internal chat app that Black Rasslin has, we were having a long ass conversation about. I think it started off trying to figure out what a Bloodline rules match was, and then we got into like this whole deep conversation about Roman and the Bloodline and how and how the Rock featured it, and I realized one of Mimi's blind spots was he's saying blind spots. Like one of the times she wasn't watching was like when The Rock was really like when The Rock became the guy that people like, yo, nah, that's why he's the best motherfucker in the world. Mimi wasn't really watching. I think outside of some of his best with Stone Cold Steve Austin, there's a lot of matches that you could pick from there.
It's my favorite.
The atmosphere when they both are in the ring and the entrance themes are off. Mm-hmm. And it's the bell may have rang. It's almost similar to when Sasha Banks and Bianca Belair when they had that main event, and it was kind of like that moment where taking in it all. But it's on level fucking 20 because it's peak like Rock for a lot of people, but it's also Hulk Hogan before, talking about not wanting his black girl or black man to be up on his girl. None of that had happened yet. So nobody had seen this. It was a true like icon versus icon thing, and the crowd, you could hear it. And you, like I said, you don't even need to watch the whole match, but I would say if you're going to watch that, watch the match. But you should. That's one of those moments where It's very tainted because and this is the problem with some of these pro wrestlers, man. We're gonna get that in a second, but they be doing shit to fuck up their legacy in my eyes or like black folks' eyes, and then they want to look at us crazy and be like, hey, who the fuck is you?
This is why I say it's okay to watch the Cosby Show. It's okay if you like them, listen to them R. Kelly songs. Don't erase this history. All happened.
It's tough.
It all happened. So we can't. I'm not for canceling and all that. Listen, let everything be what it is so we can tell all the real story, because you can't tell the story of pro wrestling without that moment specifically with Rock, Hogan, and you can't tell the history of pro wrestling without those two people.
You also, I mean, dare I say, you can't
Vince McMahon.
I was going to say you can't tell the story of pro wrestling history without Vince McMahon. I mean, even if you say, oh, we could just do outside of America, there's so many. There's no conversation about the WWE in Japan at all in this. Back in the day, there was a specific WWF title that would be in Japan that would be defended out there, depending on who he had affiliations with. Like, that's like the WWF because it was the shit. Like, one of the things with Bischoff brokering some of these deals is like a lot of that shit wasn't really happening, but it was because Vince had such a stranglehold in America. So it's you take Vince out of the conversation, you might as well not have it.
Yeah, that's a fact.
And I only think this conversation is interesting because the Diddler has just got the Rico going, and that's a very real conversation for a lot of people. How deep do I need to stop DJing certain songs or whatever? Where my cue points to get Diddy out the song or whatever? Like, that's a conversation. Technology can help a lot of people. It helped them with Chris Benoit. We'll get to that. I'm gonna end it here. Thanks to y'all for rocking with us so far in this docuseries journey. We got one more episode left. We'll catch y'all tomorrow. Peace.